And he said one of my favourite lines of the film, he's trying to break up with his high school girlfriend. And he said, but she doesn't understand why we've not broken up. I sent her an emoji of a broken heart and a thundercloud. Why didn't she get it?
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. I'm joined by Anna.
Hello.
And Scarlett.
Hi.
And as always, Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be reviewing The Breaker-Uppers.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at Flixwatcher. Hello film fans, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. In our studio today we have Anna and Scarlett. If you would like to say hello to our lovely listeners and tell them about the pod work you do, please.
So my name's Anna Smith. I am the host of the podcast Girls on Film, which you get on iTunes and Spotify and other outlets. So I started Girls on Film last year with Hedda Archbold, and we wanted to give voice to all the amazing female film critics who exist, particularly in the UK, but also beyond. And we talked to female film practitioners like Brie Larson, Kerry Mulligan, and we've taken it on tour. We've been to Cannes, and we've been to Rotterdam. We go up in Manchester to Home quite often. So that's a big part of what I do. Home, yes, we love Home. Manchester people do come and see us. But I've been actually a film critic for nearly 20 years now. Yeah. So I spend most of my time talking or writing about film when I'm not watching films. So I'm kind of living and breathing film, and I write for Metro, Time Out, Sight and Sound. And I'm lucky enough to go on Sky News and BBC TV when there's a big film story. So like if it's award season, that's a big part of my day.
What did you think of this year's Oscars in terms of Roma not winning? It's still a bone of contention for me.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, so you know that the Oscars, for me, rarely do my favourite films even make the short list sometimes. I mean, and I do think that there were some films that should have been included there. So I end up kind of making the sort of best judgment based on what's there. But I thought the Bohemian Rhapsody thing, much as I enjoyed it, was faintly ridiculous. I mean, it was a fun film, but it's very far from an award winner in my view.
Sure. And who are you across the table?
Hi, my name is Scarlett Russell. I am the entertainment editor at the Sunday Times Style magazine. So I am in charge of all the celebrity covers we have, on the film content we cover in the magazine and online, on social, our TV content, music content, anything that falls under the entertainment bracket. That would be me.
Pretty huge.
So,
broad range there, yeah.
I wrote a feature recently about how I actually have to watch TV for a living. And yeah, it was mad. That is actually my job. It's brilliant. I also have a podcast, a Sunday Times style podcast, which is not to do with entertainment. It's actually a career business podcast called Secrets of the Side Hustle, where we interview female entrepreneurs about how they started their side hustle from all walks of life, fashion, tech, art. So that is on Acast, Spotify, or your normal podcast places. Yeah. We are trying to get an entertainment podcast off the ground now. It's still in the early stages, so watch this space, basically. You
can follow you on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. You can get all the news about it. But yeah.
So, I mean, we talked a bit about Roma. That was a Netflix show. That was a Netflix film. And today we're going to be talking about The Breaker-Uppers, which is your choice, Anna. Can you tell us why you chose it and give us a 2-minute synopsis?
Well, I chose this because I love Kiwi films. Actually, this is a New Zealand comedy. And I also, as the host of Girls on Film, love things that are made by women, that centre around women, and that are funny. Yeah. And I think that ticks all those boxes for me.
This will be a triple F film.
Yes, it's F-rated, absolutely. Yeah. So it stars Madeleine, Sami and Jackie van der Beek, who both also star in the film and wrote it. And they directed the film. And it's about two women that set up an agency designed to help people break up with their partner. So whether it's because they're a bit cowardly, or they're simply afraid of confrontation, or they're afraid of retaliation, they get these two women to dress up in elaborate disguises and do crazy things like go around and tell people that their boyfriends has gone missing, or dress up as cops, and they get into all sorts of scrapes. And it's very much about these two women's relationships and the kind of almost midlife crises that they're facing while indulging in various comic activities.
Nice. Helen, What are your thoughts on the breaker-uppers?
I had not heard of this film.
Yeah.
This was a surprise for me. People who've listened to this podcast before probably know that we're big fans of Kiwi humour.
Yeah, so
What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows was our highest rated film for the longest time.
Yeah.
On here.
Good couple of years.
Well, a year or so, yeah.
Year or so.
And I think it's only usurped by, I'm not sure if it was when Harry Met Sally did it first or All the Boys I Loved Before. I think maybe that's, but yeah, it's currently number 3, which is still fantastic. Big fans, and obviously Flight of the Conchords and everything. So I was surprised that I had not been on my radar. I really enjoyed it. It's really funny. And yeah, it's great to have comedy films that are funny, written by women, directed as well. And I really enjoyed the hour and a half spent in the slightly bizarre company of these two fab females. Scarlett.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a bit bonkers in the best possible way. I think it could have been funnier. For me, I didn't love it. I think it was one of those, it was great. It was really interesting to watch. And I don't really think I've seen anything like it, certainly not recently. It was kind of a bit all over the place, but that didn't really matter because they're having so much fun. The women who, they wrote it, directed, starred in it, they're just having so much fun. And yeah, the story was a little bit messy for me, but then it was saved by all these supporting characters. And I feel it was one of those films where the main characters weren't the best thing about it, but all these kooky, crazy little supporting characters came up who would laugh out loud funny.
So who are your favourite supporting characters?
So the guy who plays Jordan, the teenage rugby player.
Boy from Boy.
He was just brilliant.
Oh, is he the guy from Boy?
He's the boy from Boy.
Boy from Boy, yeah. And so he plays this kind of very sweet but very simple client of the breaker-uppers. And he goes in and he said one of my favourite lines of the film, he's trying to break up with his high school girlfriend. And he said, but she doesn't understand why we've not broken up. I sent her an emoji of a broken heart and a thundercloud. Why didn't she get it? And then you have really sweet moments with that. And then the girl he's trying to break up with, who is this sassy, super aggressive but very funny girl, Sipa, is that how you say it? Yeah, with her crew of women, and it was just brilliant.
Anna Scotney's so good in that role.
She's so good.
And I met her actually at a London Film Festival when The Breaker-Uppers first screened, and that's where I first saw it, which was great when you go in really cold and you don't have any expectations of a movie. And also seeing it with an audience was really interesting then. But then subsequently I saw her and I met her. I was like, oh my God, I love your film. She was so great. But her personality is completely opposite, as you can imagine. She's just a little sweetheart and a real feminist as well. But yeah, this character's got like this brilliant kind of hard-nosed, hard dancing woman with this very camp crew of almost kind of trans friends, a lot of them, which I thought was really interesting.
And it was unapologetically female the whole way throughout. It was so much about friendship, and there was a lot of, you have this kind of banter between the two leads, kind of reminded me of The Wedding Crashers a bit, kind of you have this sense of they're doing something that's a little bit questionable morally and ethically, but it's always really funny. And then, but they're just mates really at the end of the day, and they have these really close moments that are really lovely, and that's a theme throughout. And I just thought that was really nice.
I think that friendship side of things is something that's not necessarily explored that much in female comedies, female films generally. You have this kind of bromance thing that came out recently with like I Love You Man and all those Judd Apatow films, but it's not something you see that much in female-led films. Bridesmaids being like the kind of pinnacle one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not enough, and I do love seeing it done well. I think The Heat was really good with Sandra Bullock and Melissa Clark. That was a great example, probably stronger than this. I agree with Scarlett that while I really love this film and I hold it dear to my heart, I understand that it is quite rough around the edges, but I think there are slicker examples. But another one recently was A Spy Who Dumped Me, and that wasn't my favourite film, but that is what you're talking about, Kobe, talking about female friendship in a stressful situation and seeing how two women thrown together in difficult circumstances deal with something. Because so often, chick flicks about female friendship are about romance, or they're competing about a boy, or tearing each other's hair out about getting married or something. Whereas in this film, there's two women who've gone into business together in the case of The Breaker-Uppers, which is a much more interesting conceit to me.
I guess Booksmart's another recent one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
So tell us about the love with Kiwi films.
Yeah, so my husband's sort of half Kiwi. We go over there a lot, and so it's always been really lovely to see it represented on film. And a couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to go and look at the locations of Hunt for the Wilder People, which was so much fun. I did a piece for The Guardian on it.
This is so beautiful. It's so beautiful, that film.
It is such a gorgeous
So
place.
where's that shot? Hunt for the Wilder
So
People?
it was both the North and South Island, and lots of kind of remote farm countries. So we were sort of flying between and going to these farms where the most that's the thing, is that the most welcoming people would come and greet you and say, "Oh, come and see me anytime. You can come and stay." You know, they're so excited to have someone visiting them. But they have this incredible remote locations. So yeah, I mean, that was really stunning. And of course, that's a very different kind of New Zealand than the one you see in this film, which is Auckland. But Auckland is near where our family live, and I know the K Road where some of the scenes are filmed. So it really captured a side of that for me. But also, I think the humour, that is actually they draw from British humour and early British humour, because a lot of the people who are writing in New Zealand have grown up watching like kind of quirky British stuff. Almost alternative comedy has influenced them. So I think, and that's resulted in a really interesting mix of quite brash comedy, which is a real mix of sort of physical humour, character-based humour, and slightly farcical as well.
Yeah, it's a bit sketchy as well.
Very sketch-based. I mean, I understand, obviously, these two women have worked in TV a lot, and you can feel that it does have a small screen feel in many ways. But there are some real funny sketch moments, and there's something slightly outrageous and pushing the envelope about it as well. I mean, some of it's quite on the edge, the humour here.
Yeah, a bit Bridesmaids-y actually in that way. When that first came out, that was really pushing it. And it does feel for me that this Kiwi comedy is having a bit of a moment. I think maybe the resurgence of the popularity of What We Did in the Shadows being the TV series being on, and I have to make sure I'm saying his name right, but Taika Waititi. Yes, exactly. Taika Waititi, who produced this film, and of course is everywhere now. And I think since Thor, that kind of put him in a different, and he hit his Kiwi comedy in Thor, but that was the kind of standout character. And I sort of feel like that's propelled him into a new, so all this stuff is coming up to the mainstream a lot more.
Yes, and I think the success of Wilder People as well, which was like this film, a huge hit in New Zealand, means that more money is getting put into this sort of thing, I hope, internationally and distributing it internationally.
Well, so this is produced by Picky Films. Or Peaky Films, I'm not sure how to say it in the Kiwi accent. But so they also produce Hunt for the Wilder People and Jojo Rabbit, which is Taika Waititi's next film, which is coming out in a few weeks' time. And I just love that kind of nexus of, Jermaine and Taika getting together, but also now we've got Jackie Van Beek, as she is on Twitter. And she directs a few of the TV episodes of What We Do in the Shadows. She was the familiar in What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yes, that's it.
And I love also so Jackie Van Beek's mum in this played the auntie in Hunt for the Wilder People. So you can tell the kind of community isn't that big, but you can tell they really help each other out. And like you said about Boy. You can say about Boy, was that Taika's first one, or was it Eagle versus Shark?
I think it's Boy.
Yeah, but you can tell they're all kind of hanging out with each other and just kind of letting all the creative juices flow.
And Jermaine Clement has a brilliant cameo in this film where he's a Tinder date. And that's exactly it. They're all mates and they've all got this lovely little community.
Absolutely. I love New Zealand, for similar reasons to yourself. I don't have a half Kiwi spouse, but I've been there a couple of times, and every time I've been like welcomed with open arms, to the extent that one night I was in a queue for a fast food takeaway, and they had like a lamb shank there, and I couldn't afford it, and I just kept moaning, and suddenly this guy goes, "Here you go, mate, here's your lamb shank," and just walked off, and I was like, yes. To that man in Taupo, I love you. I don't know who you are, don't know what you look like, but since then, I think anything to do with Kiwi, I'm going to give a fair crack of the whip. Certainly.
For him, that's really nice of you. There is a good sense of community, I think, in New Zealand. Yeah.
So my experience this year of getting into cricket, for some reason, was my boyfriend's mad about cricket, and the World Cup was between New Zealand and England, and he kept on saying, but no one wants to beat New Zealand. They're so nice. They're such a nice team. Like no one minds beating Australia, but there's all this rivalry between England and Australia. But New Zealand is so nice, and this whole thing, he said, oh, they're just like a lovely team that pat each other on the back when the other teams won, and it's all really lovely. So I think they just are nice. It's a nice country. Everyone's nice to each other.
I am. I love New Zealand. I always find that it's quite like Wales in some way, in the landscape is a little bit like that. And lots of sheep as well. But the New Zealand cricket team, sometimes when they win, they're almost like, oh, sorry, we've won, kind of thing. A little bit like that. But not so much the landscapes in this as there are in films like Hunt for the Wilder People. Yeah. But yeah.
And a lot of Kiwi people are not big fans of Auckland and the big city and stuff like that, are they?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends who you ask, really. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely really dodgy parts of Auckland. I mean, and this skates past perhaps some of the darker aspects. I mean, there's like a crystal meth problem in outside of Auckland and in parts of New Zealand. So let's not pretend it's all rosy. There is crime and there are horrible things that happen. But I like the way that this film kind of skates around that area and sort of you sort of know that it's in the background and it is much more urban than these kind of idealized Hunt for the Wilder People kind of films. But it is a lot of it actually about being nice and about community, and ultimately these two women, particularly the more cynical of the two, played by Jackie, learning that what they're doing is morally reprehensible probably, and thinking about the best way to put that straight.
So let's talk about Jackie and Madeleine. They wrote the theme tune, sang the theme tune, put it all together. I think that's just great that hopefully you'll see them doing more. And I think they're producing. I think they're doing the same with a film starring
Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
great.
Which is perfect. You can just imagine Aubrey Plaza being exactly right for their slightly quirky, offbeat, crazy humour. And she has that thing that I think they have here that she brings to a lot of her films, which is very confessional quality. And it's not being scared to look ridiculous and not being scared to push the envelope and say, okay, women have bodily functions, women do stupid things, they get drunk and they fall over, and but not in the kind of tame way that we see in mainstream films, in their slightly edgier way. Like they do proper drugs in this film, for example, or not proper drugs. There's no spoiler there, but they are quite wild, these women, and I think Aubrey Plaza would be good in something directed by them.
I think they'd suit really well with like Kristen Wiig and her friends over there. They could just slot straight in, I think. I'd love to see them in American films in the same way Tyka's gone over there, and Jermaine and Brett as well have started to make waves over there.
Sort of breaking into the American club.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the bigger film community. I think they could definitely compete with
make
everyone
it
else.
big.
Yeah. I suppose it's like Wine Country that was on earlier this year, which wasn't as strong. That could have been way more funny than it was. But I suppose it's that thing of women just being a bit silly and just getting drunk and whatever, there was definitely traces of that, but it seemed to me just bolder. It's like they just didn't care. They're like, let's just go for it, which is maybe, I would say that was maybe Kristen Wiig is so big now that she'd be a bit too worried to push the limit that much. But I think there's a real freedom that comes with being so new, where you've not got as much to lose and you're just going for it, and it makes for really raw, brilliant comedy. And I think they could just get away with stuff that you might not. And that's again why Netflix, you can get away with a lot more than perhaps you could if it was released in the cinema.
So this was released in the cinema in New Zealand, wasn't it? And brought by Netflix for everywhere else, I think. Yeah,
I was hoping that it would be in the cinema, just in the UK, selfishly, just so I could do more on it, because I mainly specialise in things that come out in theatres.
Okay, yeah.
And also so that more people would have the opportunity to see it with a big audience, actually, because I think I benefited from seeing it with a large audience. And when I was sitting watching it at home on my own, which I think is key, I probably laughed less because it's less of the community experience. And for me, I think this is one to watch if you're a female with your girlfriends, because you have those moments where you recognise all too well what it's like to be on a hen night singing karaoke, for example. One of my favourite scenes is, by the way, they had this karaoke video which resembles those really terrible, terrible cheap ones that you see in those dodgy booths in Thailand or something. Yeah. And then that is then used to play out, the story really cleverly, good exposition of these two women's friendship. Celine Dion, absolutely brilliant. Even my cat enjoyed that bit.
FYI, the soundtrack is brilliant. There's some 90s bangers in there. It's a great soundtrack.
What should we do? Do you want to head on to the scores? Is there any other bits you want to
Could I make another point?
Absolutely.
One thing I love about this film is the representation, because it is actually an extremely woke film while being a bit naughty and not worthy. And I think that's a really good mixture. I mean, it just seems effortlessly good on representation, because obviously you've got quite a lot of Maori characters, and you've also got a bisexual character in the lead, and there are numerous gay characters. They're not afraid to break up a gay wedding.
Yep.
It's like, you weren't this. She fakes being pregnant and comes. You weren't gay 8 months ago, Russell. Absolutely brilliant moment. So it's it has a poke at all those people in equally, in a good way. And it also has a bit of an edgy joke about a young man being potentially underage, which he isn't. But that's the kind of joke you too often see in the reverse.
Yes.
And I thought that was pushing boundaries as well. So it was big thumbs up from me and the sort of girls on film style, not just from the female side, but from race and sexuality and all those things.
And also age as well. I mean, they make no hiding about it that, she's nearing 40 and, in American films they don't really give roles like that to women or
their age.
Yeah, which is
exactly
crazy.
Exactly.
But
I agree. And one of the storylines about the way they met was they were both cheated on by the same guy. But actually that could have so easily been a bigger part of the story.
Could have been the
really
plot
nice
about
that it wasn't.
trying to get back with him, whereas he's just kind of a backstory.
Yeah.
And the purpose of the film is not to find another man or to get back with him.
No.
He's just kind of there on the side.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Should we head to the scores?
Welcome to the spreadsheet of dreams. The scoring system we have is all out of 5. You may have decimal places, but nothing lower than a 0. And we will start with you, Anna, with the recommendability, please.
Can you define recommendability a little bit more for me?
Sure. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go on.
So, it's how easy you find it to recommend it to other people. So,
Like how many types of people would I recommend it to?
Yeah, so
how broad is it? Or
always,
if I knew someone would love it?
So I always say like my benchmark for recommendability is Back to the Future because it might necessarily be my favourite film ever, but it's someone I can just say, you've not seen Back to the Future, go and fucking see Back to the Future right now. And wouldn't have to think about who you're referring it to.
Yeah.
But if you have to, like Pulp Fiction's another one of my favourite films, I think twice about recommending it to some people because I'm like, I don't think they get it. It's like 3 acts, random structure, maybe it's a bit long, a bit wordy, too much blood, that kind of thing. So
I'm going to go for a cautious 4 out of 5 for that one.
And you can have decimal places if you feel you want to adjust it up or down a bit more. So 4 out of 5. Scarlett.
Do you know what? I'm going to go with a 5. And interesting because it wasn't my favourite film by far, but I would always recommend it because I think firstly, it's a film that I think people need to see. I think the only way more films like this are going to get made is if people see them. And I would love to hear what other people thought of it. And I think it would appeal to not just women and men as well. And I would kind of just like there to be a bit more of a conversation about it and hearing what people thought. So yeah, I recommend everyone watch it. I'm going to be generous.
So I am going to go for a 4 as well. I think you both mentioned that it is a little bit patchy in places, and you almost get the impression that maybe it would have worked as a TV series a lot more, maybe, and that would have kept it a little bit tighter.
Sure.
But yeah, if you like this very specific kind of humour, then you'll love it. If you find this specific kind of humour a little bit like a little bit weird or like not quite there, then you probably won't enjoy it as much as maybe I did. So a 4.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 4.3 here. I think there's just a few things in the Kiwi humour that might put people off in a way. And for those same people, we didn't recommend What We Do in the Shadows because it's still a bit like of a hard ask to, okay, so the vampires and they do what, sorry? They're just hanging out, okay, fine. No, that's not for me. And this has, as much as I love the Kiwi sensibility, I don't think it's directly off the bat for everyone. But I still recommend it to a lot of people without much thought. 4.3, repeat viewing score. Anna.
I would, I think a 4, but if you love it, because it's one of those films that if you do love it, you definitely want to watch it again with friends and a glass of wine and have a giggle with it and replay the fun bits. But it's not one that I would, I don't think I'm going to be watching it again and again, like, for example, Back to the Future in 10 years' time.
So 4, Scarlett.
Yeah, I mean, I might watch it again if I needed something to watch. It's one of those I wouldn't be in a mad rush to watch it, but I can see it is one of those. It is a film that's very easy to keep on watching. I guess I would go for 3.5 for repeat viewing.
Sure. H.
So I watched this on my own, and I think I would definitely want to rewatch it with a couple of people who I know would enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's only an hour and a half as well.
Less than that.
Hour 22.
Oh, was it? Yeah. My information was wrong from
80
IMDb.
minutes on IMDb. I'm not sure it's quite that.
That's where I got it from.
Oh.
Anyway, it's still optimum length. So, I think I'll go the same as you, 3.5.
3.5. So one thing we said with What We Do in the Shadows, which I think applies here as well, is almost felt we can just watch in like 20-minute chunks. And that kind of that relates to the episodic nature that you were saying. So I think I'd be quite happy to watch a 15, 20-minute chunk, put it down, come back to it later on, watch another chunk. So that does kind of lean into repeat viewing score. I'm not sure if I'd think, let's watch it all straight away, but I'd be quite happy to think, let's just have a little bit. In the same way, I'm watching Monty Python and the Holy Grail at the moment as well. I'm watching
in bits.
In bits. I'm just like, okay, that's that bit finished. I'm going to put it down. Got other stuff to do. I'll come back to it later on. And I can see myself doing that with this one as well. So what did I say? 4. Yeah, let's go for 4. Small screen score. Anna, so you were probably the only person that saw it in a big screening room with other people.
Yeah, in a way, it lends itself to a small screen because you certainly don't need the magic of cinema to appreciate how it looks visually because it's very conversational. It's very much about characters and the comedy. So that's good. But then, as I say, with an audience in a large cinema, I think it really benefited from that. So,
and there's mainly cine literate people as well, or critics when you're watching the same.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was London Film Festival. There were a lot of foreign journalists, and I noticed that some of them just didn't get it at all because I think some of the nuances, probably the Kiwi humour,
or maybe even the accents as well.
The accents, true.
They did not hold back at all with the accents in this. I think in Wilder People and What We Do in the Shadows, that accents are a bit played down.
Yeah, these were quite strong. And also I sent a couple of friends to see it who did not love it in the cinema, actually, when they did a special screening at LFF. So I am quite cautious about that. So I'm going to go 3.5.
Scarlett.
Small screen score. So this is... Because I've only seen this on the TV. So do you mean that as opposed to watching it on my phone or something?
No, so it's TV versus how much would you have liked to see it in a big screen?
Got it.
Like if you saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, seeing it on a small screen for the first time probably doesn't make any sense.
No, I do agree with Anna that I think, for a film like this, it's not so much about the mise en scène and the kind of the beauty of how it looks. It looks great because it's bright and fun, but it's more about the characters and the story and the humour. So I think for small screen score, why don't we go for 4? I think it's a 4, yeah.
Sure. Helen?
I'm going to give a little bit higher, so I'm going to go 4.5. I watched it on my own, and I think if I'd have watched it in company, I would have had more of a kind of laughing out loud moment than rather just like, so definitely it loses for that. But also, had it not been on Netflix, I probably never would have seen this, and it just would have passed me by and would never have had the chance to see it. So again, it's really important that Netflix are picking these small films up and giving it an audience that it might not have had it only come out in the cinema on a very limited release.
Have you seen Booksmart, for example?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so Booksmart and
I think that kind of came and went.
Like super.
Yeah,
and this
didn't have a chance.
In the UK, this would have came and went, irrespective of the quality of it. Like Booksmart and 8th Grade are fantastic films, but they just don't have the breadth of the Marvel cinematic universe bearing down on people, which is a shame.
So it's good that they're available on Netflix.
Absolutely.
And you can watch them.
You said 4.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to for that as well. I feel quite jealous that I didn't watch it at London Film Festival with yourself, Anna. I think it's nice. It's always nice to watch comedies with other people. And I think this would have been elevated slightly with other people in the room as well.
Yeah, I think that's why
it's shared experience rather than the size of the screen.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why I've gone slightly low, because even though it is really good for the small screen, I think it's quite a treat to see it in the cinema with a bunch of people. Yeah.
Let's go for the engagement score. How engaged were you whilst watching? Were you checking your phone? Obviously not. It's more related to the second viewing for you at home.
Yes, so it wasn't possible for me to check the phone on my first viewing because obviously I'm a good person. I switch my phone off in cinemas. I think I was quite engaged actually watching this on the small screen, partly because I knew obviously I was going to be talking about it and I was like, making notes and going, I remember that. But I think the story has got enough to keep you interested. The characters are funny enough and charming enough for you to root for them. And there's a steady stream of comedy. If one joke doesn't land with you, the next one probably will. So it's not like you're checking out. So I'm going to go for a 4.
Nice. Scarlett?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say 4 because I actually did watch it in 3 parts just because just happened to be a day where there's a lot going on. So I really tried to be invested when I was there and I was watching it. But also I was so taken by it because I had never seen anything like. I thought it was just so bonkers and brilliant. I was not tempted once to look at my phone. I just thought, because I really wanted to know where it would go. I'd had no idea. So yeah, I'm going to say engage, maybe even higher. Can I go higher?
Well, I can go up to 5.
Well, up to 5.
I used up my 5 so early on.
No, you can have as many 5s as you want.
I'll do a 4.5. I'll do 4.5.
You can do 4.4, 4.45, 4.75.
That's just crazy talk. No.
No, 4.5. No worries.
4.5 for now, yeah.
Helen.
So I am going to go for a 4. The only thing I did think that it sort of sagged a little bit in places, and there's a striptease moment which I kind of thought maybe went on a little bit longer, and we kind of got the point, and it could have been a little bit tighter and a little bit more trim, and I was ready to move on to the next bit or to kind of move the story on a little bit faster than it did in the actual film. But yeah, 4.
So that was a whole bit when they reconnected with Anna, who's the first person you see getting the breaker-uppers treatment. I loved Anna, actually. The way she cried.
She was fantastic.
Absolutely
She's a
had
great
me in stitches.
Yeah, and she's really important for the kind of emotional arc as well, because she's the one that makes them realise what they're doing is actually immoral, potentially.
Yeah.
But she's very funny, the way she, she suddenly starts, jumping on this whole wank bank idea that she's suddenly heard of, and she's like so excited about this concept.
Yeah, it's brilliant when they just think of her as just another client. They don't care about her, and it's just when they're beginning to have a bit more of a conscience. And she comes in, and it's just the way she delivers. It's just one thing after another that they've said something quite bad's happened to her boyfriend, and he just wanted to dump her, and she's got nothing else going on in her life, and it's just one sad thing after another, and she delivers it so well.
And then she has a crying. I'm crying quietly now.
Yeah.
One thing I objected to was that I used to do capoeira. And
I did wonder about that one.
It's like, oh God, it does capoeira. What even is that? Is that a dance or a fight? I love that. No, I didn't object to it in that way. I just
It's right though.
Yeah, it is absolutely true. Is it a fan? Is it a fance? It's a fance. It's not a fight or a dance. That's a new word.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think for me, I loved it. From Anna's crying, that's what got me into the film like straight away, and you could tell it was like farcical, and you could tell the kind of direction it was going to go. And I don't think I pulled away. I think maybe Seppa's character is a bit confrontational, a bit too much at the times, but it was totally played for laughs. But yeah, I think I'm going to go for 4.5. I was in there. And that gives us an overall score of 4.1250, which I think is about the same as Hunt for the Wilder People.
Yeah. I mean, anything over a 4 is a very, very high score anyway. So that one is well into there.
Yeah. And we always reach out to our guys on Twitter, and in this case said we're reviewing at Breaker Uppers with at Anna Smith Journo and Scar Rose Russell. Have you seen it? Give us your thoughts on air shout out on Flixwatcher. We had one response from at Top Film Tip. Anna, can you read out the response from this good fellow?
So it says, facing reality of their relationship ruining business, morally flexible friends fall out. Death/cop/striptease/adultery faking charismatic comedy. And then they say it felt more like a TV miniseries than a cinematic experience, but still a worthwhile atypical Kiwi comedy.
Yeah, and it gives a score at the bottom.
So, okay, so they've gone for 3 laughs, like crying faces, lols, and then...
Out of 5 Kiwis.
5 Kiwis.
Yeah. 3 out of 5.
I saw that on Twitter. I wondered what that was, that exchange. Why was he doing
thanks
the
for
emojis?
explaining the emojis.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah, Top Film Tip likes to get creative with
Yeah, we
this
do have
emojis.
some creative use of emojis to represent the star rating. So we always do a shout out. So if you follow us on Twitter, look out for the GIFs and do comment, and we'll read them out.
Excellent. Anna and Scarlett, can you sign off by telling whoever's listening, Jasper and his friends, where they can find you online, where to find more of your work, and also you are going to be at London Podcast Festival.
Yes, that's right. So Girls on Film is going to be at the London Podcast Festival in King's Cross at King's Place on the 12th of September 2019, 7 p.m. You can book your tickets now. And if you go to the King's Place website, you can book 3 different podcasts and then you get 15% off.
Yeah.
So you can go and see some other cool stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our live shows, we get people involved, we
Yeah.
have a laugh, we have celebrity guests. It's really fun. So come along to that.
Do you know who the celebrity guests are yet?
It's wrapped in secrecy at the moment.
If that doesn't entice you guys.
All be revealed. And to find out all about that and keep track of us, you can find me on Twitter at Anna Smith Journo, as in journalist, so Journo. You also get me on Instagram. My website is annasmithjourno.com. And Girls on Film is available, as I said, on iTunes, Spotify, all your usual platforms.
Fantastic.
So you can find out more about what I do on my Twitter at ScarRoseRussell. Instagram is at Scarlett Rose Russell. For anything Sunday Times related, we are thetimes.co.uk/style. Our style podcast, Secrets of the Side Hustle, is available on all the platforms. And we also have a video website, Style Play, which is free. It's in front of the paywall, unlike some other Sunday Times content.
That disappoints me so much.
Why?
You need to get a subscription.
No, because I'm sorry.
No, but it's in front of the paywall.
No, that's what I mean. It disappoints
Yes.
me so much every time I go to the Times.
Right.
Like Charles Gant's gone there now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And I used to love.
Has he gone to Telegraph, is it, I think?
Is it Telegraph?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, sorry.
I may be wrong.
T.
But yeah, it's still a paywall.
Yeah.
There's still a paywall. You can get a certain amount of articles for free. You just need to register. So all you need to do is give them an email address and you get some content.
So register, guys.
So
That's what I'm
register,
gonna do.
but if you can see all our videos as well, you don't have to register anything. Style Play, we've got an amazing Billy Porter video just on there, and I will be shouting about all the future podcast news on my social media. So do
When you say
follow.
Billy Porter, is Pose season 2 coming out soon?
Yeah, it's coming out in September.
Right.
September, October. They haven't. BBC
So you need
haven't.
to need to get in touch with Scar Rose Russell
Yeah, for all
online
the
to find.
news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, guys, for coming
Thanks so
on.
much for
Thank
coming
you
on.
so much.
Cheers.
Bye. Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.